Greetings, Lord Captains. Avrengost here, this time talking about Lex Imperialis, the second DLC for Rogue Trader. Are you ready to embark on a journey that will have you face the full brunt of the Imperium's strict laws and meet its unflinching enforcers, the Adeptus Arbitis? I've finally managed to finish my new playthrough of this game with all the additional content, so I'm finally ready to talk about it. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a completionist gamer who mainly plays RPGs, and I've dedicated a lot of my channel to guides and reviews on Rogue Trader, simply because I really like this game. I'll do my best to keep this review spoiler-free, but as usual, some minor spoilers will be inevitable if you want to talk about the DLC at all. Let's start by talking about what Lex Imperialis brings to the table. The DLC is all centered around the activity of the Adeptus Arbitis, so as you might imagine, all the content revolves around them, the Arbitrators. You have a new origin for your characters, the Arbitrator, which excels in using shields and shotguns, a new second-tier archetype, the Overseer, which allows the use of cyberpets, if you will, a new companion, Solomorn, who is an Arbitrator and an Overseer and, of course, is closely tied to the new storyline. This storyline develops mostly in chapters 2 and 4, ties some knots that were left loose with governors and the administratum in the base game, and it lasts from 10 to 15 hours. We also explore new planetary systems and new maps. I didn't have any form of early access to the DLC. I got it as part of the Season Pass when it came out for everybody. It's not a bad thing though. I got to play the full experience, while I heard that the early access versions of Lex Imperialis were somewhat incomplete, missing some content, and relying on provided save games to show the new content. Now you can be sure I played the full version, did a full new playthrough, and fully completed it. Achievements were all working. Rogue Trader with 2 DLCs installed is quite a long endeavor, which is why it took me so long. The new full run required almost 100 hours to complete, taking my total Rogue Trader hours well over 500. However, it also gave me the opportunity to assess the whole picture. That's also why I have some concerns regarding balance that I will explain in a moment. Let's proceed in an orderly fashion. The first thing you'll notice while starting a new game is that Lex Imperialis adds a new origin, the Arbitrator. If you're not familiar with the setting, the Adeptus Arbitis are the law enforcement forces of the Imperium of Man, and they have the right to serve as judge, jury, and executioner when they discover the Imperial law has been broken. Your Rogue Trader can now be a former Arbitrator who served the Imperium in such a way before being pulled from their previous job by the head of the von Valancius dynasty. Your origin, as usual, will be reflected in dialogue and allows you to buy some interesting talents at level up. Those talents are mostly related to the use of shotguns, shields, and crowd control. Just to mention a couple of interesting ones, with Shotgun Mastery you can wield two-handed shotguns with one hand, very useful to couple with the use of a shield. With Lawful Intervention, you can parry melee attacks with a ranged weapon, using your ballistic skill instead of weapon skill to calculate your parry chance, and you can even perform attacks of opportunity with said ranged weapon. With Arbitis Physical Training, you gain a bonus to toughness equal to half of your shield's block chance. Arbitrators also have 3 sub-origins, if we want to call them that, all with different specializations. The Vigilant is built all around the shotgun use, the Castigator is a crowd control buffer and debuffer, and the Subductor is about shield usage and can potentially be a wonderful tank. A lot of the gameplay changes come with the free patch 1.4 update. With it, shields have been added to the game, and shotguns have been completely reworked. They've become good area-ranged damage dealers, and can apply a variety of debuffs. Their base attack now costs 1 action point. Shields add a block chance to any attack made against you, and it's calculated on top of your dodge, deflection, and armor. They're another stack of defense that characters have to completely avoid damage. Block chance does not depend on characteristics, like dodge does, but only by the type of shield a character is wielding. All characters except Xenos and Ulfar can equip a shield. Between the free update and Lex Imperialis content, you'll find a lot of shotguns and shields all game along. I have a video that explains the details of the 1.4 patch, if you're interested in the gameplay specifics of the new weapons and related talents. Lex Imperialis also adds a new second-tier archetype, the Overseer. It's a class all based on cyberpets that you can control, and they can enhance your abilities, damage, are able to buff, debuff, and so on. You can enter the Overseer archetype from the Officer or Operative first-tier archetypes, or by having an Arbitrator or Psyker origin. Those will also determine which kind of familiar you may choose. For example, Solomorn is an Arbitrator by origin, but a Soldier as a first-tier archetype, and he has a Cybermastiff as his Cyber Companion. All familiars have their own characteristics and one equipment slot. You will find equipment for them in loot or through a special new merchant. These items will increase the familiar's characteristics and capabilities. Officers and operatives can choose between two familiars, the Cyber Eagle and the Servo Skull's Swarm, while arbitrators can only have the Cyber Mastiff and Psychers can only have the Cyber Raven. Let's see them in order. The Mastiff is the Arbitrator Origin familiar, as said. It helps in isolating and dealing more damage to a single target, depending on its weapon skill and equipment, and may grant debuffs to enemies he runs into and free attacks if adjacent to the Overseer. The Cyber Raven is reserved for Psychers and allows casting Psyker abilities through them, acting as a sort of conduit. It can spread the Psyker abilities to multiple enemies, acting as a sort of echo chamber for them, debuff enemies' cover or damage them, and help allies in regaining wounds. The Cyber Eagle is the officer's or operative's cyber companion, expanding on their support abilities, adding the capability to blind enemies, confusing them, and making them attack each other. Lastly, the Servo Skull Swarm is an extreme support cyber companion, transmitting the operative's or officer's abilities to groups of enemies or allies, and it can heal and debuff targets in batches thanks to its extrapolation area. The Overseer has a specific heroic act or desperate measure, Overcharge, that reanimates and empowers the cyber companion. Keep in mind that those cyber companions don't have a turn on their own in combat, but act on the Overseer's turn through some of their abilities, and some of those abilities cost action points, while others are free. At the end of the day, while the added support abilities may be nice, I haven't found the Overseer to be a terribly powerful archetype. Using action points to have the familiar do stuff that you usually do better with the original character is not a good trade, at least in my experience. Maybe someone will come up with busted builds for some Overseer types. I'm sure there's a potential there, especially with Servo Skulls for an extreme support build. I tried them all for a bit, but my experience was not great. I almost always got Solomon with me, and maybe I didn't build him properly, but this Cyber Mastiff Glato was almost always dead on the ground because enemies targeted him first. At some point, a bug made Glato's clothes disappear from his inventory. There are no other clothes to be had in the game, and without them, the Cyber Mastiff was not working at all. It didn't attack, it just stayed put. I did some research, and I was not the only one to experience this problem. Anyway, the whole Overseer part of Solomon was not working anymore. So once I finished Chapter 4 with all his DLC related content, I had to leave him on the ship to have an effective party. As Void Shadows did with Kibela, Lex Imperialis gives you a new companion that's deeply tied to the new storyline the DLC proposes. Solomon is an Arbitrator's Proctor, the squad leader who leads riot and suppression forces. You'll meet him as early as Chapter 1, but you can't recruit him until Chapter 2. This was probably done because he's already an Overseer, as say the second tier archetype, so giving him to you early would break the character's theme or the game itself by giving you an overleveled companion. It was meant to be recruited in late Chapter 2, and that's how I did it, but the recent 1.4.1 patch seems to let him join you earlier in the chapter, by popular demand. About the story, as usual, I will only talk about it in broad strokes, to avoid major spoilers. In Chapter 1, Solomon and his squad make an appearance on Rykad Minoris, and a badass one, investigating a case of a missing tithe. They fill up some slow moments that were in the base game during this chapter, making the whole narrative more interesting. I was wondering how a story based on tax collection could be even remotely interesting, but I underestimated the Warhammer 40,000 setting. The tithe, broadly speaking, is the taxes every ward of the Imperium must send to keep the constant war effort going. From the character creation homeworld section, we have a glance at how different those wards can be. Every ward is ranked by the Administratum and receives a tithe grade, now showing in the updated planetary UI. It's not a new mechanic, it's just for flavor in accordance with the lore. Those wards pay the tithe not only in currency, but with what they actually have to send: food, raw resources, manufactured goods, and even what's called the live tithe, people with psychic abilities destined to the Inquisition's black ships, or cannon fodder to enlist in the Imperial Guard. Generally, as long as the tithe is paid and the enemies of the Imperium repelled, every planetary governor can rule pretty much as they see fit. But when the tithe is not delivered, or heresy grows rampant, the arbitrators intervene. They don't care about the local law or regulations, only about the Imperial law. As said, Solomon and his squad make their appearance in Chapter 1, following the Roar investigation about the missing tithe. In Chapter 2, he will ask for your help in tracking the void ship with the stolen tithe cargo that they identified. I suggest embarking on this journey towards the end of the chapter. It can be tough. Once you've dealt with the pirates who stole the tithe with a very cool, at least to me, boarding action, you can decide what to do with the ship and potentially repair it to add it to your fleet. You also have a story section in which you control Solomon in the squad before he joins you, and it's the tutorial for the new Origin and the new Archetype. It was immersive and well done. The Heartless, this new ship, will join the Navy escort ship you might already have. It's much more powerful, capable of firing the lance cannon and macro cannons, launching fighters, and it even has a Drukhari shield to help with its evasion. Including your own, you have 3 ships at your disposal, and most void ship battles become trivial. And this is one of the balancing issues I was mentioning earlier. Still in Chapter 2, Solomon's investigation will lead you to a feudal world. A feudal world is an imperial planet where the society is stuck in a sort of medieval society, and I feel it's a sort of gimmick to make you face shield-using enemies. The new map is built with incredible attention to detail and it's beautiful to explore, but the story itself wasn't terribly interesting to me, maybe because I guessed what was going on right away. Not that I'm a genius, I just think it was very easy to guess. In these new maps, you'll encounter specific interactions designed for Gleito, having in drag crates to you that are otherwise difficult to reach. You find these interactions only in the new maps. They're few and not terribly interesting. At this point, if you have both Void Shadows and Lex Imperialis installed, doing their Chapter 2 content makes you reach the exemplar archetype before even entering Chapter 3, leading to the second big balance issue I mentioned. Everything was pretty easy to face going forward. I only had a couple of close calls in the whole rest of the game. Granted, it depends on the difficulty you're playing on. I was playing on Daring difficulty, which is the difficulty I consider the game to be balanced around. Still, at any difficulty you might be, once you reach the exemplar archetype, stuff gets pretty easy to face. Chapter 3 is peculiar in its own way. If you already played the base game, you know what I'm talking about. If you have Solomon with you, you'll encounter new dialogues and options tied to him. Chapter 4 is where the second big part of the DLC takes place, leading you to a planet which has been scraped from the star charts. The story will lead you to the Palace of Justice, and I'd say that while I didn't like the feudal world part too much, I loved this one instead. All the story bits and pieces came together in a meaningful way, and I enjoyed the huge exaggeration on everything related to the Adeptus Arbitis. Even the Administratum has quite a lot of new content, while in the base game it was a little bit relegated to a comedy relief role in Jai's first personal quest. Chapter 5, being the game's epilogue, doesn't have any additional content, apart from some new cutscenes added with patch 1.4. I really liked Lex Imperialis. It may have slightly less content than Void Shadows, or maybe it has the same amount of content but being more dry, violent and over the top, it felt like it ran faster. Void Shadows had a lot of metaphysical stuff going on with the Bloodspan web cult, while here it's all more akin to how I imagine Warhammer 40,000 still is to this day. Brutal, unforgiving, exaggerated. I say imagine because I used to play the war game some 25 years ago. You have to deal with the unbending rules of the imperial law, which might take years to bring justice upon a place, but boy, when it comes it's no joke. The two DLCs certainly have different core themes. I really loved the badass arbitrator's introduction and the boarding action to retake the pirate ship. It was very fun. I didn't like the feudal war part too much, as said, because I thought it was predictable. But again, I loved the new content in the rest of the game, with the hoarding planet and the court of justice shenanigans. I played the female rogue trader to experience the romance with Solomon, and I have to say it was surprisingly interesting and touched some very deep issues, something I wasn't expecting from Warhammer. To be perfectly honest, I should also mention that some bugs that were fixed in my last playthrough are back. Some rumors don't clear after you've done the relative content, some maps have the cover overlay slightly shifted, and some planetary events don't clear after you interacted with them. These problems were present when the original game came out, but they were fixed by Void Shadow's time. They've rearranged some of this stuff for better pacing. For example, you can't stumble on the Hellbrute in Chapter 2, only in Chapter 4, and it's tied to a rumor now. A lot of content for Chapter 4 is pointed out by rumors now, avoiding you another thorough exploration of the whole Coronus expanse, but some of them didn't work as intended. I have the feeling a lot of this is not tied to Lex Imperialis but to some recent patches, and I think it's worth mentioning in the case you want to start a fresh run like I did. Just like Void Shadows, Lex Imperialis comes with its new soundtrack, adding to the already notable OST the base game has. I don't know how many new tracks are there, but you immediately recognize them if you played the game before. I want to specifically mention the weird medieval and in part industrial soundtrack for the feudal war. It was a surprise. Lex Imperialis is priced at €17.49 for me. I imagine it should be about 18 US dollars. I think it may be worth the price for the amount of new content it brings, especially if you start a new round with it, so you can experience that content organically through the main game campaign. Buy the Season Pass could be a cheaper option for having both DLCs at the same time, like I did months ago. Let's wrap this video up. As always, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Please like, comment and subscribe. It helps me reach more gamers around the world. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.